And we continue at 1:07 in the afternoon. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show. Broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studios, where you can be entertained in both the lounge and the showroom. Mr. Randy Wens at the sports desk in Culver City.
John, I've told you that I spent all this weekend rebuilding our soundboard. It's twice as big as it ever was before. And now I have a whole category that's just titled Oakland Drops.
Oh, my God. They melted the basketball court.
It's wild, wild west out here.
Oakland, I love you, but you don't love me.
Oakland is the gift that keeps on giving all year long.
Oh, my God. They melted the basketball court.
That's my favorite one.
You know, if you blow up a basketball court, that's not really technically even fireworks. That's a bomb.
Oh, my God. They melted the basketball court.
800-222-KABC is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Well, because of the attacks on Israel from Hamas, one of the groups that's been put under the spotlight is the Democratic Socialist Association, the DSA. It is a far-left radical group that believes that Hamas is justified in terrorism, killing innocent civilians, women and children in Israel because it's quote-unquote decolonization. And because they regard the Israelis as colonizers, anything that Hamas does to get them out of that region is justified by them.
They believe it's liberation.
That's right. And they had rallies all over these United States, including right here in California, where they celebrated the murder of, 1,200 people and counting? And it's not just the lunatic fringe people in the streets that belong to these organizations. Sometimes elected officials belong too. There are 2 members of the state legislature, both from Los Angeles, that belong to that organization. There are 3 members of the city council and Mike Bonin, who just left the city council, also are members of the DSA. Nithya Raman, by the way, your favorite councilwoman, Randy, she's a member.
Yeah, she is a member, as well as Hugo Soto Martinez.
Yeah, clap that up.
And in fact, this is fascinating. Yesterday, the LA City Council had a press conference where they were talking about support for Israel and how horrible this is done. And every single member of the city council was there at that press conference, except for 3. Hugo, Nithya, and Eunises Hernandez.
Yes.
That's right. So take all of the principles that we've learned from the DSA, where they believe Hamas can use terrorism to kill Jews, and apply that logic to all of the problems in California. We have problems with fentanyl dealers. Oh, no, we don't. The fentanyl dealers, they're the real victims. We have problems with crime. Let's shut down the jails, because the people who are inmates, those are the real victims.
Because we are the defund the police people, right?
We have problems with the homeless. Oh, no, the homeowners are the problem. Let the homeless encampment stay. We have problems with child sex trafficking. Oh, no, the people who are trafficking the children for the purposes of commercial sex, they're the real victims.
Don't forget the catalytic converters.
Oh, that's right. If it weren't for those pesky car companies, people wouldn't have to steal them.
And we can't increase penalties because that would criminalize our communities.
That's right. So all of the principles that the DSA stands for regarding the Middle East are being applied to state and local government here in California. And Eunises Hernandez, the councilwoman from East Los Angeles, is the perfect example as to why the government does not function in California. She recently sat down for a one-on-one.
That's right. She went on Spectrum News, which still is a channel, and was asked about all of her efforts in criminal justice reform. Because, you
can't get well in a cell.
First, she was asked about Eunices' first claim to fame. She was the big push behind Measure J, which in the county defunded the sheriff's department to move that money into other categories.
You served as co-chair of the campaign for Measure J back in 2020, along with now Assemblyman Isaac Bryan. The measure, which was approved by LA County
He's
voters.
another one of the DSA members, by the way.
That's right. He's newly elected in the Assembly representing the Inglewood area. He was also a Measure J guy.
Is focused on diverting more county money to social services and jail diversion programs, and it prohibits the money from being used on prisons, jails, or law enforcement agencies. Do you think Measure J is doing okay right now?
I think Measure J is doing okay right now, and it could be doing a lot better. But what has
We could defund the sheriffs even more.
I'm sure she'd like to.
But what has happened so far is that the county of Los Angeles has moved from Measure J to now calling it the Care First Community Investment Fund. And so far, the amount of
The CCC.
CCP.
And so far, the amount of money that has been allocated or that those line items for is about $278 million was the initial proposal. And so I was part of...
So if you live in unincorporated LA County or one of the cities that contract with the sheriff's department and it's taking the sheriffs 10, 20 minutes to respond to your call, you can blame Eunises Hernandez.
Can't get well in a cell.
And so I was part of year one of developing some of those recommendations. Now there's year two of funding recommendations. And I've met organizations on the ground who are saying, we got Measure J resources. Because of these resources, we were able to expand the number of people we could serve. And that
sounds like she has taken money that was meant to go towards law enforcement and it has forwarded it to her friends' nonprofits.
You know what they're doing here? They're using the same principles that they use to give housing dollars to developers who then, in turn, hire their friends and family and launder the money back to their campaign accounts. They're now doing that with organizations that are meant to serve the homeless and prisoners.
I mean, look at what we did with addiction and treatment. There is billions of dollars in the LA County budget to deal with addiction. And you think that money's going towards rehab? No. Barbara Ferrer is sending it to organizations that are passing out meth pipes.
Next slide.
It's a money laundering operation.
We got Measure J resources. Because of these resources, we were able to expand the number of people we could serve. And that is success. And it's beautiful to see because at LA County voters, over 2 million of them said, yes, we want to...
We do have nobody to blame but ourselves for this crap.
You get the government you deserve.
LA County voters, over 2 million of them said, yes, we want to see our money come back to our communities for young people, for mental health services, drug treatment, housing. And it's happening. It's not happening at the scale that we wish it would happen, which is more money.
Well, the scale that she wished would happen is no sheriff's department.
No
jails. Yeah, no jails, no LAPD. She is a full-blown abolitionist.
More money, but it's happening. And hopefully, there's people on the ground through the Reimagine LA Coalition that are fighting to make sure that this is permanent, that it continues, and that the amount of money increases.
More money, more money, more money. She sounds like Cecily Myart Cruz.
Well, if Cecily Myart Cruz was behind this cabal, unfortunately, she would get every single dime. There would be no sheriff's department left.
We demand higher pay. Get that money.
Let's hear what Eunises has to say about her Care First, Jails Last agenda.
And since taking office, you've prioritized a Care First agenda.
By the way, this is what happens on Spectrum. Nobody's watching, so they can have these conversations without having to worry about offending the public that actually wants to make sure that criminals belong in jail.
Well, does anyone watch Spectrum on purpose, or do you just watch it because that's the channel that pops up first when you turn your television on?
What are your goals for this initiative?
The Care First agenda that we have proposed is, to begin with, to meet crises with support and care. Right now, our option for crises or emergencies is only 911.
She wants 912, 913, and 914.
So if you have a homeless person having an episode in front of your house, you don't call 911 because we don't want anyone with a badge and a gun showing up. You call 912 and you press 1 for English, and then you tell them about the homeless person's episode.
And then they send out a social worker, and the social worker gets stabbed. Who do they call then?
That's when you call 911.
We've already seen this play out in San Francisco.
People have been stabbed in Urban Alchemy. They've been shot. They've been attacked. And they still show up every single day as an alternative to policing for this community.
Which places a lot of the pressure and most of the pressure on our police and our firefighters. But we want to push for additional levels of responses. For example,
so when a homeless person starts a fire, should we not call the fire department? Should we call a mental health worker?
Well, if they see a big red fire truck pull up, that might trigger them.
But we want to push for additional levels of responses. For example, psychiatric mobile response teams that could answer mental health crises calls, or street medicine teams that could provide.
Street medicine is a interesting way to say we want to pass out meth pipes.
Street medicine, I would assume, would be meth itself, correct?
Probably.
On the ground mental health services of providing their, medication. They can deal with wound care, getting people housing first.
Wound care?
Yes.
So that is a specific department for what you need when you get stabbed?
Well, what you need is they need to update the 311 app. I just had to use it this week because for some reason my trash cans didn't get picked up. And there's all these kind of different service requests. What Eunises would like is if you could create a service request that says wound care. And when you type in the description, I hit the needle too far into my arm and now I'm actively bleeding while I'm shooting up heroin. Can you help me?
So it's only for mishaps with needles. It's not if you get stabbed.
No. For that, you should probably call 911.
They can deal with wound care, getting people housing first, getting the services they need first before we start, before they get impacted by criminalization, or have to lean on our very precious emergency room resources. Or more often than we would like, people are dying on the streets. And so there are many things that we want to play, particularly around pretrial. People should not have to be incarcerated because they can't pay for their freedom.
I don't even know how we got onto zero bail. She transitioned to it for some reason.
Wow. Listening to her talk is like listening to slam poetry.
Are we going to get it?
People should not have to be incarcerated because they can't pay for their freedom. And right now in LA County, half of the population in our LA County jail systems are there mostly because they cannot pay for their freedom. They're there.
They're just poor, unfortunate souls that got caught up in the law enforcement agenda.
You know what this is? This is like listening to a CNBC nonstop running ticker of 3 a.m. DSA tweets.
And right now in LA County, half of the population in our LA County jail systems are there mostly because they cannot pay for their freedom. They're there pre-trial. And
I know Gil Cedillo was a piece of crap, but seriously, Highland Park?
I never thought in a million years I would have voted for Gil Cedillo, but if this is the option, I would have voted for Gil Cedillo.
Freedom, they're there pre-trial. And so we can do things like text message reminders. We can do make transportation and make sure people come to court.
Free Uber rides for the criminals.
So wait, so they stab you if you're a taxpayer, and they have to show up to court for the trial, and then you have to pay for their ride too?
Yes.
So then you put the criminal in the backseat of an Uber with no one else in the car, and now the Uber driver's in danger.
It's almost like they haven't thought this through.
There are different things that could be met with care and strength and support instead of always trying to fall towards the punitive system. And so that's what we...
No one should get punished for anything in Eunises' world.
No. We just have to put up with it. They're not criminals. They're eccentric.
That's what we mean by care first, different levels, but responses that try to wrap around people instead of just funneling through the traditional systems of incarceration and criminalization.
Wow.
All of this, and this is what was done with the homeless problem. Now it's being done on criminal justice. All of this is a massive grifting organization because she has been able to get enough stuff passed in the county and in the city where she is taking money away from things that you think your tax dollars are supposed to go towards, like police and fire, to her friends who run nonprofits that don't do anything.
I get it. You bring someone on your show, you want to be polite to them. You don't want to be rude to the guest. But if you have a guest on who's saying that, wouldn't a follow-up be in order?
Not on Spectrum News 1.
dear.
How dare you?
And Randy, if you want to listen to a podcast version of this show, that just got very easy to do.
That's right, because we've got a brand new KABC app. Search KABC AM in the Apple App Store, the Android Store, and then you have the best way, the least clutter way to listen live to this station whenever you're outside of the AM dial. The stream you can listen to around the world whenever and wherever you want. It also has a podcast button that's pretty much designed for this show. Because you hit podcasts and you see podcasts of this show, and it works with CarPlay, so you can listen to this show as much as you want. 301 hits, you want to listen to more of this show, you can do it. It is so easy. Anybody could figure out how to download this app. Barbara Ferrer, you know how to download apps, right?
I have no idea.
Okay, she's a bad example, but you could figure this out.
It's Woo Wednesday.
Ric Flair.
It's Woo Wednesday. Yeah, baby. Woo, 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 woo. Woo, 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 woo.
And Randy, that means tomorrow is Throwback Thursday.
That's right. In about an hour, we're going to open up the phones. And if you got a suggestion for the music playlist on tomorrow's show, your favorite artist, genre, theme, we did a Desi Arnaz one a couple weeks ago. That was hilarious. I think you all know why we did a Desi Arnaz one. And if you don't, you can email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com.
Quite frankly.
But whatever your theme is, whatever weird genre you want to hear, be creative. We'll have you call in an hour, and we'll pick up one lucky listener who chooses all the music for Throwback Thursday.
Right now, it's time to open up the KABC Crime Blotter.
Where's my crime blotter? There it is.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
It's in a different place than it used to be. I'm still getting used to it.
And Randy, today it's a potpourri of Oakland stories.
That's right. Let's get the Oakland drops in.
Oh my God, they melted the basketball court.
It's Wild Wild West out here.
Oakland, I love you, but you don't love me.
And the most Oakland thing to happen this year with all the crazy crime out there is that Oakland and its bay areas and its harbors have been taken over by pirates.
And not the ones from Pittsburgh.
And the most shocking thing about when this was revealed, that people that have boats in the estuary and other places are getting them vandalized, getting their motors stolen, and sometimes getting the whole boat stolen from these pirates, is that Oakland PD has one police officer dedicated to the harbors. They have one police boat and one cop, and he is severely outnumbered.
Who knew Captain Hook lived in Oakland?
Let's hear more about the pirates from KPIX.
We begin in Oakland in the estuary, where the threat of pirates ransacking boats and marinas has risen to a new level.
Everything in Oakland has risen to a new level.
It is 2023, and we're talking about pirates.
Thieves are becoming more brazen and the thefts more costly, as residents say they have given up relying on the police for help. John Ramos has the story.
Well, you know, if you get that boat over international waters, anything goes.
That's maritime law.
A couple of weeks ago, we brought you a story about pirates coming in off the water to steal dinghies and outboard motors from marinas along the Oakland waterfront. But now it looks like the problem has escalated. Now they're stealing a lot more than just some rowboats. Stephen Young outfitted his boat, the Bay Escape, to serve as a survival craft in case of a large earthquake or disaster. But that
I feel like he cursed himself with the boat named the Bay Escape.
Okay, wait a minute, though. If there's a massive earthquake that knocks his house down in the Bay Area, wouldn't that, in theory, create a tsunami?
Well, he didn't think this all the way through.
Stephen Young outfitted his boat, the Bay Escape, to serve as a survival craft in case of a large earthquake or disaster. But that plan was sunk recently when thieves...
Of course, you have to.
Nice writing.
But that plan was sunk recently when thieves stole the 40-foot yacht from its slip at the Embarcadero Cove Marina.
They stole the Bay Escape!
Well, it escaped.
They spotted it a few days later, stuck on some nearby rocks with people still aboard, so Young called the police.
Well, I told them somebody's on the boat and they're moving the boat as we speak. Can you just go down and impound it? Couldn't do that. We need a police report first.
they're putting up administrative hurdles when the boat's in the process of being stolen?
I found the boat. The pirates are on it right now. They're defacing it. They're probably doing unspeakable things in the head. Make sure you get out here. We can't do anything yet.
Okay, here's what I would say if I was him. I don't have time for your paperwork. Send someone out to shoot them. Right in the heart.
Young says the police never came. He says it wasn't until days later when the insurance company called them that the boat was recovered, and by then it was too late.
I'm going to guess his insurance got canceled.
Well, maybe the boats are uninsurable in California, too.
What they did to the boat was just unbelievable. They normally you expect them to take the dinghy and your liquor and stuff like that, but they took the fishing poles, they took the fighting chairs, they took the barbecue pits, and everything they didn't take, they destroyed.
What's the purpose of that?
We're living with animals. These are not humans. These are animals. Actually, that gives a bad name to animals.
They stole GPS equipment, bilge pumps, engine parts, and 3 handguns with ammunition. Closet doors were torn off and every compartment was trashed. They also found a number of hypodermic needles and the message, "I love Jesse," scrawled in bleach on the couch cushions.
What?
Now, I wonder if they spelled it correctly.
They also found a number of hypodermic needles and the message, "I love Jesse," scrawled in bleach on the couch cushions.
Oh, Jesse.
Okay. It sounds to me like he just needs to start over.
Now, when we're saying "I love Jesse," is that like some brand new phrase for heroin?
I love heroin.
Or do they really love Jesse Jackson?
Maybe it was their Nissan Altima that Jesse Jackson saved.
That was an Altima ALTMA 4899410. Please move it now. You're blocking someone.
They also found a number of hypodermic needles and the message, "I love Jesse," scrawled in bleach on the couch cushions.
Never heard of anybody drawing something in bleach before, but meth will make you do interesting things.
No kidding.
The insurance company says the boat is a total loss, but it's not the only one. 2 other large boats were stolen in the same week.
And then a few days later, someone in this marina had to defend themselves with guns against the pirates.
So it's exactly like the ride at Disneyland. You better arm these boats with cannons.
And that's where it is right now. Everybody here who's anything has a gun or a knife or a sword or a stick or something. You know.
I'm imagining everyone who has a boat in Oakland now walking around with just a large rapier at their side.
Oh, I would absolutely dress like Johnny Depp if I owned a boat up there.
A gun or a knife or a sword or a stick or something, to protect themselves.
Michael West lives aboard a ship and says the crime coming from people living on boats anchored out in the estuary has turned the entire area into a Wild West environment.
Uh-oh. He said it. Every Oakland story these days, someone always ends up invoking the WWW.
It's Wild Wild West out here.
And you think that homeless encampments are bizarre and there's crazy things going on there and chop shops and the people living there absolutely insane? Wait till you see what's going on right off the coast of places like Oakland, places like San Francisco, places like Marina del Rey, with the people that live offshore, off the grid, just anchored on a boat that doesn't work. That is some crazy stuff out there.
Well, and if you own one of these boats, you probably live there, too, on the ground in Oakland. And you're thinking, boy, I'm surrounded by homeless. I'm surrounded by crime everywhere I turn. Let me get a boat so I can escape it for a while.
It came to you.
Michael West lives aboard a ship and says the crime coming from people living on boats anchored out in the estuary has turned the entire area into a Wild West environment, especially since the city of Oakland has only one officer who knows how to operate the boat to protect the harbors.
The City of Oakland Police Department, we tend to make things work with what we have, and I've been training approximately 10 other maritime officers on how to operate the vessel, so the vessel is available.
At what point do we call the Coast Guard?
Well, if the local authorities refuse to enforce the law, you got to call someone.
More hours than just myself being here.
I mean, we need Aquaman at this point.
But so far, that hasn't happened, and the people living on the waterfront feel like they're on their own. Young says he's had enough. His boat couldn't survive the earthquake of crime shaking Oakland. Once the insurance company pays for the loss, he's gone. As for West, he and his neighbors know this isn't petty crime anymore, so they'll band together to do whatever they must.
You know the old saying, John, there are 2 days when you get a boat, the day you buy it and the day someone steals it.
He and his neighbors know this isn't petty crime anymore, so they'll band together to do whatever they must to protect themselves.
So we don't even bother to call the police anymore. See, we're going to handle it ourselves.
Vigilante justice.
That's what they're left with.
I mean, honestly, if you're going to protect your property and you know the police are not going to come out there, time to go in guns a-blazing.
What's going to be the plot line of the next installment of The Little Mermaid? She gets violated by some bum on meth?
There is plenty of crime happening all over Oakland, but those who live on the water feel like castaways on a deserted island, left to fend for themselves with no one coming to the rescue.
When the yacht was finally recovered, it was found tied up to a pier near Union Point Park, about a quarter of a mile away. Since then, Marina residents say that they have heard lots of gunfire coming from that area.
I'll tell you this, Oakland stories are never boring.
Oakland, I love you, but you don't love me.
And I'm telling you, what starts up there doesn't stay there. This could very well happen to Marina Del Rey, too. Because we have a DA who won't do anything about it, and we have a sheriff who wants to keep the L.A. County Board of Supervisors happy. We had one who would do something about it, and we voted him out of office.
Quite frankly.
Thank you, Holly. But let's reopen the KABC Crime Blotter.
Where is that crime blotter? Here it is.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
Because whenever we do crime stories from Oakland, usually it's a double feature.
It's wild, wild west out here.
You hear a lot about car thefts in Oakland. In fact, there have been over 10,000 cars stolen in the city of Oakland this year, and we're only in October. And you might wonder, what do people do with those cars? Well, typically what they do is they steal someone's car, and then they use it as a battering ram to destroy the door of the business that they want to steal something from.
That's not very polite.
For more, here's KGO.
Like this are ones Ahmed Ali says he records regularly. This is a group of people using their car to yank the gate off one of his stores before running in and stealing nearly everything.
It's very dangerous, and we never seen it this bad.
Ali and his family have owned stores in Oakland for 30 years. He says many of his stores have been robbed in the last 2 years. This incident happened just 2 weeks ago.
Think about that. You've been in business since the 90s, and now is more dangerous than the 90s.
And that was when we had a crack cocaine epidemic.
They wrapped the chain around the gate and pulled the whole storefront out. And they were in there shopping. I mean, they were in there for like 20, maybe 10 minutes.
Ali knows numerous.
See, when you hear about smash and grabs in Southern California, they're in and out in a minute because they know the police will eventually show up. In Oakland, they know that even if someone calls 911, as soon as they rip the door off, it's going to be 20 minutes before someone even answers.
Okay, so how do they rip the door off? Do they tie a rope to the handle of the door, they tie a rope to the car, and then they slam on the gas?
Yep.
I don't know if I've ever told you this before, Randy, but when I was a child, there was a construction site next to my house. And when they do construction, they have to water the ground to make sure that the ground is soft enough for them to start doing the digging. So it's essentially one big pile of mud for a while. Well, the idiot that lived on the opposite side of that decided that would be a great opportunity for him to go off-roading in one of his cars. So he was off-roading in one of his cars, and the car got stuck because the car was not meant for off-roading. So he had to call one of his friends who had a truck that he then used to tie a piece of rope to one bumper and a piece of rope to the other bumper and slam on the gas. What he didn't know was that it would rip the bumper right off the front of the car and go through the back window of the other one.
God.
And they were in there shopping. I mean, they were in there for like 20, maybe 10 minutes.
Ali knows numerous other stores in Oakland being aggressively robbed. This video shows thieves running up to another one of his stores with an assault rifle before running away. Oakland police confirmed to ABC 7 News they are investigating at least 2 burglaries in the last week. On Monday, they say these...
By the way, if you rob someone and you have an assault rifle on your person, in theory, you don't even have to use the assault rifle. You go to prison for a long time. The fact that they're bringing assault rifles with them to rob unoccupied stores tells you that they know that they have the green light to do whatever it is that they want.
Isn't that right, Pammy?
Quite frankly.
On Monday, they say these kinds of crimes have gone up.
What we've seen throughout the city, including Little Saigon, International, and even in some of our business corridors, is increase in robberies and burglaries, street-level robberies, as well as auto burglaries, and in some regards, commercial burglaries.
They're stealing everything.
Pretty much.
Oakland police say thieves are targeting stores that have large amounts of cash inside and stores that carry high-end merchandise.
These are efforts for individuals to get a hold of them very rapidly and try and either offload to a vendor to get more money or to have cash on hand.
Ali says he has lost thousands in recent robberies, and repairing the damage isn't cheap.
Grabbing all the expensive liquor, broke into the office, took the money. The damage was about $30,000.
Jesus.
God, how much do you think they got away with?
Not
Far
30.
less than that.
Not 30,000. This is why all these businesses have become uninsurable. It's yet another thing where they cannot get insurance for their business because it's too dangerous.
Theft was about 20, so that was 50,000 in like 10 minutes.
He says in order to solve the problem, Oakland needs to put a lot of its resources to stopping crime.
We're paying
They don't even have a police chief.
It's been 8 months now. How's that working out, Sheng Tao?
We're paying taxes. We pay city tax, property tax, business tax. We pay all these taxes, and everything is, where's the protection? You call 911, it takes 5 minutes just to get through.
In Oakland, Ryan Curry, ABC 7 News.
Well, you got all those safety ambassadors, so you should be happy about that.
Oakland, I love you, but you don't love me.
Maybe they're just not that into you.